What up, guys? Welcome to Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, episode number 367. The arbitrary numbers given to podcasts so you guys have a number to follow. Ha ha!
So in all defense, it kind of helps me keep things organized when I'm like looking through stuff.
Sure.
So maybe it's a guilty thing that I like to do. But
Well, I mean, old sitcoms had numbers too, right? It's like
right.
Seinfeld's on episode number 200 or whatever, But it just, like some of them, it's like, come on, you got like 2,000 episodes. Like, you really,
I love it.
Whatever.
Like, what's
Anyway,
Joe Rogan on? Like,
what's that?
Almost a 3. He's almost a
he's like some
3,000.
crazy numbers. Like, really, are we keeping like? Eventually, is it going to be like 10,000 or something? Like whatever.
He might, dude.
Maybe. But today we're going to talk about we're going to do some random Q&A. So I've got a bunch of questions that have popped through at some point. Some of them are jiu-jitsu related. Some of them are very personal and not jiu-jitsu related, but they're questions that you guys have asked at some point. So it'll be fun Q&A episode. Maybe you learn a little bit about the Schuster and Dr. Yevgeny that you didn't know about previously. Right. And maybe you're a little bit entertained or amused, right? So, we'll have some fun. Big thanks to our sponsors for helping bring this episode to your ears. Charlotte's Web, you can check them out at charlottesweb.com. They are one of the OG companies as far as CBD goes, and they are third-party tested to ensure the purity and the quality of what's on the label is what's in that damn bottle or pack of gummies that you have. Again, with supplements, it's like techniques in jiu-jitsu. Some people use supplements and they're great. They get a lot of benefit from them. Some people use them and they maybe don't feel the same effects, So again, use them and try them out for yourself. I'm big on that. I'm big on intuition and sort of feeling how you get something from it, right? Because there's a lot of times where like you think about meditation as an example, been done for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. And if we waited for some scientific data to come out, we would have been waiting for a long time to prove that it's actually worth doing. But it's always been worth doing, and people have figured it out intuitively, right? And so supplements sometimes can be the same way. Sure, like we don't have some data that's whatever. Yeah, but again, there's a lot of people saying it's really good stuff and it's been very useful to them. For me, I like using it as part of my recovery towards the end of the night. Currently, which I've been using for a while, is they're like CBN gummies, which is specifically to help with sleep, like the product. Used CBD off and on over the years, like it, and they've got a lot of other products. If you want to check them out, go to charlottesweb.com, use the promo code Chewjitsu30 to save a whopping 30% off your order. And try it out for yourself, see what you get from it. See what kind of effects you have. If you like it, great. If not, no big deal. And big thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. Our buddies over at Epic Roll have been a long-time sponsor of the podcast, and they make amazing jiu-jitsu gear. I get my gym's gis made through them. I get my rash guards and shorts made through them. They're comfortable. The quality's good. I like what they do. Their stuff has great designs, good quality stuff. He's got great customer service. If you guys want to check him out, go to epicrollbjj.com. Browse through the website, see if you find anything you like. And if you find something, save 20% off the order with the checkout code Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. If you guys want to support the podcast directly, you can roll on over to the website at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, where we have a Patreon membership, which means it's a monthly membership. Monthly membership. Yeah. I've got commitment issues. It's very inexpensive. Probably costs you less than what you spend in a coffee shop or a gas station run, whatever. So very cheap, very inexpensive. But again, it supports the podcast, and you get a bunch of bonuses for it, a bunch of perks if you guys want to check out what those perks are. Again, just roll on over to the website at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast to get access. Also, if you guys want to check out my daily email that I send out, which is very popular amongst many of you that are listening, not everyone, I'm sure, but most of you that are listening have probably gotten a couple of emails from me. You can join my almost daily email at chujitsu.net/join, where I send it mostly Monday through Friday, sometimes the weekends. And I go through everything from training ideas, lifting, books I'm reading, just whatever I think might be useful, entertaining, or fun. And on top of that, when you join, you'll get access to an ebook that I created that comes along with a video that goes into 12 different strategies on how to get more from your rolling and to be more focused with your training. This is super important for a lot of us that aren't training every single day of the week because we got families, we got kids, we got stuff going on, even myself included. I literally own a gym and I can't train super hard every single day because I'm getting a little older. And so again, one of the secrets, if you want to call it that, is to be very focused on your training and to train deliberately, not just sort of like haphazardly. And so if you want to learn how to do that in a very simple way that can be done from white to black belt, then roll on over to my website at chujitsu.net/join, JOIN. And I will send you an ebook and an email, and you can unsubscribe at any time. So let's jump into these questions. Again, these are not serious questions, most of them, but they're fun. And we'll start with an easy one to get the juices flowing.
All right, let's do it.
Because this is one we both, I feel like everybody, if you've been married for any length of time, everybody's got this story down a little bit. So how did you meet your wife? That was the question for me. So so we can talk about how we met our wives. So the way that I met my wife, here's how it happened. It started off, I met her originally back in 2000 in, I think it was 2010. Met her at a tournament. And I remember I was at this tournament and I'm just standing there, and all of a sudden I look down to me, and, she's like 4'11", so she's like almost considered a tiny person, right? She's almost there. Waiting for her to just like her vertebrae to collapse a little bit so we can maybe get some disability checks to come in. Woo.
There you go.
But so she's sitting next to me, and I remember like looking down at her and like just these big blue eyes staring back at me. I thought she was just super pretty, and I kind of went blah, 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 blah. I just kind of went like got a little tongue tied, and I was like, hey, whatever. Like, screwed that one up, dumbass.
Someone that can't talk, someone that speaks for a living, can't
I know,
talk.
man. Right.
Isn't
like
that crazy?
I got to
change the environment just a little bit of the situation. You're like,
yeah. And I don't normally have trouble talking to women either, right?
Not,
but for whatever reason, I just like stared at her. I was like, oh man, she's pretty.
That's how you knew.
And and then periodically we'd see each other at different tournaments and stuff like that. And I sort of made a pass at her at one point, got her number, and was like, hey, do you want to like go on a like hang out? And because basically I was trying to find my in, and so she was talking about like horses, and I was like, oh cool. It's like, well, you can show me how to ride horses, right? And like we'd go hang out and ride horses, and she's like, yeah, we can hang out and do that. She's like, as friends, right? I'm like, as friends? I'm like, friend zone. Yeah, I got friend zone. So I was like, I'm done. And again, I'm not one of those guys like any of the fellas listening. Like, don't be needy. It's the most off-putting thing to women. Like when you just keep bothering them, if they're not giving you any energy back, just let it go. You sending them random DMs into their Instagram, that's not going to work, right? Like just have some self-dignity and respect for yourself.
Send them some pics. I don't know if that's ever worked.
And if it does, you don't want that to work, right? So have some dignity for yourself. So I just basically was like, all right, I'm done. I'm not going to bother her anymore. She's not interested. Cool. We'll be friends, and I'm not going to be weird about it, but she's not interested, so I'm not going to pursue that much anymore. Well, she eventually started training at my gym, and when she started training at my gym, I was like, I'm not going to be weird about this, because obviously I still find her attractive, but I don't want to impede on her ability to train and be there. And so I was completely whatever. But she ended up hanging out with all the guys and me and everything, just hanging out, doing the stuff after training, getting lunches and stuff. And we slowly started to become buddies, and we would talk about all the terrible dates we were going on and all these crazy people we were dating. And then one day, me and my buddy, he was getting ready to leave because his wife's in the military. They're getting ready to get shipped out. So we were like having some drinks together, having a last hurrah. And so we're basically drunk, and she doesn't drink. And so she came to drive, and she drove us home. And when she's driving us home, at the time we lived way out in the middle of nowhere kind of thing, in this big house. And she's like, it's really late, and I'm gonna have to drive home. It's like, and my buddy's like, don't worry about it, we've got like 6 bedrooms in this house, because the house is like 5,500 square feet. It's a huge house. Which I think is a big house. I don't know what people think. I think it's a big house. So getting this but what he failed to tell her, that was like there was only 2 bedrooms that were really furnished, right? There was a lot of empty space in that house. And so we get there, we end up like hanging out in my bedroom. Both of us just passed out, fell asleep. Nothing ever happened. Made breakfast for her the next morning. And then I think that's what hooked her, because I gave her a good breakfast. We went and trained together. And then afterwards sort of just grew on her like mold. And then that was that. So that is how I met my wife. I went from bumbling idiot to growing on her like mold.
There you go. Question: what got Jess into jiu-jitsu? I know she's kind of trained off and all, but I never. Is there
she
something
was dating someone that trained jiu-jitsu?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I knew she kind of found her way to the mats, but I wasn't sure how.
Yeah, I mean, she maybe was kind of interested, but she was dating someone that was into training, and so she started dating him, and that's what pulled her in.
Yeah. So for me, I don't know. It's kind of maybe a cliche story. I met my wife at a bar. It was
Hey, it was the time before what is it, the apps?
I think there were some apps,
not like that one. Not this is like early. They may have some apps, but like maybe eHarmony or something like that, where you're looking for your soulmate or something. But there wasn't this ease of just like swiping on your phone, right?
Yeah.
So
The bar was called the Back Door. It was, yeah. It's the bar that everybody. So it was on this street in Louisville, Kentucky called Barstown Road, and it's basically the place people go to get really strong drinks before they go to these other bars, which are like very expensive. So you get like strong drinks for really cheap.
Yeah, they give you good pours.
And I thought, I was awesome. I had my sequined shirt, like I think it was an Affliction shirt.
I was gonna say the Affliction shirt probably had like the bedazzled jeans,
bedazzled fleur de lis on it,
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually meeting a friend, kind of a friend, it's somewhat of a romantic interest. I was meeting a friend, and this friend drove down from Indianapolis. So she drove around 2.5 hours.
So you were there to meet a girl who's driving down from Indianapolis that you're trying to like talk to.
So my wife walks in with some friends, and she kind of noticed me. I guess one of her friends walked up and asked me, like, if I was single or something like that.
Yeah.
And she had this like blonde hair and a pink corset on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? Okay. So I think they asked that her friends walked over and asked me to get her a drink. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, please. Whatever you say.
So I got her a drink, and then we started sitting down, and we kind of sat down, and she was just this big nerd.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we just got into conversation. She was very nerdy, and I was like, she's hot and she's a nerd.
Yeah.
This is an interesting combination.
Is she a
She's
dude?
Just the way she spoke was like, and so I remember we're sitting there. I didn't tell her I was meeting somebody there. And the girl that I was supposed to meet walks past us, gives me the most devilish, evil stare, and walks into the bathroom. And then she walks out and leaves. And so that was that. And so we met. And we really didn't. She told me she was getting tattooed the next day. And I was like, you're full of shit, whatever. She had like a little tattoo on her wrist, but she's like, I'm getting tattooed tomorrow. And I was like, okay, fine. And her phone was dead or something. So like, I wanted her to come home with me, but she did not. Her friends did not.
You wanted to.
I did. And
good for her.
But her friends, were like, oh, you're on the phone. It's probably not the best idea, which is great. So we kind of did, the thing about being needy. I think I was I was a needy kind of person, I think. And so with her, I was just always call and text and like just be over. I was probably a little too much. And I was like, you know what? She lived, about an hour away. So we kind of like, I told her, I was like, hey, find me on Facebook and shoot me a message. And so if you shoot me a message, then we'll chat a little bit. And we kind of just took it super slow, like the same thing. Like we really got to know each other because she lived an hour away. So we couldn't really see each other all the time. So we kind of she texted me the next day with a picture of herself getting tattooed. And I was like, oh, she wasn't full of shit. Interesting. So we just kind of started talking. And then she lived in Lexington, which is about an hour away from Louisville. And we just kind of started hanging out. And then that's how we met, at a bar called the Back Door.
Oh yeah,
interesting stuff. I had I was peacocking, wearing my Affliction stuff. I still had
that little mohawk.
Then. I had the little faux hawk when all y'all think it's cool now. I had that back in the day, like 2010, back up. I was cool back then with my Affliction stuff on. So yeah, that was it.
And this is something for you guys. Like, there's a lot of times there's a lot of opinions on people dating within gyms.
Yeah.
And I'm very much okay with it because, like, I mean, if you put men and women together, like, they're just gonna hook up and do stuff together. Like, you can't stop it. It's literally like, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, you have like prison guards, that like of the opposite sex, both of them, right? Men and women who like they can't not do it, right? So you think you're gonna stop like random people from? Of course you're not. My sort of recommendation is, if you do end up sort of becoming, getting into a relationship with someone, I think it's a good idea anyway, looking back at it, but especially if it's someone in a situation like that, like, put off the physical part of it for as long as you can, right? We know what that is, right? So like, again, put that off for a while, because a lot of times it's, as guys, we'll like, unless we have a sort of maybe a religious reason as to why we don't, we'll typically chase that pretty quickly, right? And it's a good idea, I think, in general, to like put that off for a while, so that you actually, one, if you're in a gym setting, you guys can cut the cord if it doesn't work out. Like if you get to know them and you're like, not really that interested in them, you can cut the cord and there's not that physical attachment, right? But also too, from just like a general standpoint, like you actually get to know the person a little bit as to whether or not you like them. Because if you start doing like physical stuff with them, you could grow to like that and not really even like the person, or not really enjoy being around the person, but like that part of it's good. So you stick around a little bit too long. Right. So it's a wise idea, I think, to really get to know the person before you start to commit to that. And I think it makes a better idea this way. You can break it off if you're not interested. And if, guess what, if you guys do break up, just remember that you don't actually own the person. Just a good idea to remember, like the person is not your person. They are a person. And if they break off, you just have to accept that. So be a big adult and deal with it.
It's a tricky situation for sure. As someone that's not dated someone from the gym or anything like that, it is it can work out great because you have this common interest. But it can be tricky, like you said, you got to take your time. Got to take your time. I think that's really important.
And again, if you break up, just break up and be done with it, and like stop like being needy and control, and just like be like, I'm done. It's cool. Different ways.
Yeah, for sure.
No big deal.
Yep.
Maybe I'm just easy. Maybe I'm easier about like breaking it off and not caring anymore. Like, when I'm all in, I'm all in. But as soon as, like, if I've been in a relationship, like, we break it off, like, I'm now moving on, and that's that.
Yeah.
I had one exception to that, but otherwise it's always been just moving on.
Yeah.
So here's one. What are you afraid of?
Oh.
So that's, I mean, it could be lots of stuff, right? I mean, everybody's a little afraid of death to some degree, right? I mean, like eventually you kind of accept it as just kind of like it's going to happen, and whatever, that's going to be that. And we do a lot to avoid having a premature death, like when we take care of ourselves, and wear seatbelts and things of that nature. But I think like one of the things that sort of sticks with me, because I grew up poor, is that one of my biggest fears is not being able to provide for my wife or my kid. Right. Because it's like one thing if it's just me, it's like whatever, I can go with very little and I'll be probably all right. But not being able to take care of my wife or my kid, or for my kid to have to experience, and again, it wasn't even that bad, because I was like, I'm living in America, and we're under the poverty line, but somehow I was still fat, right? So like obviously, we're doing okay, in comparison to other countries. But there's still some hardships, some things that I dealt with like I was younger, that I would like my family to be able to avoid if I can. And so that's like kind of a fear, I guess, just because you experience it, you don't ever want to go back. I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to experience that level of stress. I don't want to. I remember seeing my mom in a lot of cases where, because bills were tight. She'd have to go give plasma to make a little extra money and stuff like that. And I remember like sometimes waking up in the middle of the night to go pee or something. And, I'm like 8 years old, and I'm looking in the room, and my mom would just be crying at the kitchen table, and you're like, cause she's stressed, right? Just stressed about everything, whatever else. She ended up pulling things around, and it worked out better. But like, there was a period was real rough on her. And like, I'd like to be able to avoid that for my family, right? We can have some other problems, but I'd like to avoid those problems. And so that's a fear. And again, not necessarily that it's something I think about every day, but I think it's like one of those underlying things where maybe the reason why at times I'll work so hard is because that fear is right behind me still. I even have a page in my journal, which I used to use. I don't have to use it now because I've got it kind of ingrained in memory, but basically anytime I would be sort of slacking, I would look through these few pages that I have in one of my journals, where it's like, it basically just tells me just all the bad stuff that I can remember. And it's like, right. So, cause it's like, it's so easy when you start getting to a place of like relative, security, things are good, super easy to get complacent, and so it was a way to kind of bring myself back to keep me hungry, where it's like, hey, asshole, let's keep going. Because we got stuff to do. We got people to take care of. Do you want your wife to experience this stuff in here? And like, I know, and, and I want to be able to take care of her. And now that I got a kid, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want him to experience the same stuff. And so it kind of like, it's mentally sort of puts you to the fire a little bit, and sort of helps kind of keep me motivated. And so sometimes kind of remembering those things kind of helps keep me like focused a little bit.
Yeah. Fear is a hell of a motivator. I mean,
it
is one of those. It's such fear, and like some of those negative, I guess they're negative. Like they are like, what you don't want, and like just like in jiu-jitsu, if you had, like, for me, I had maybe a really bad performance or got submitted real quickly in a tournament, had this, you just know, man, I'm gonna fight like hell for that to never
Yeah.
happen again.
Uh-huh.
And it's such a, sometimes, that those lessons are they're hard, but there's like the greatest teachers.
It's a bitter medicine, man, but it's effective.
It sucks. It sucks. But yeah, it is very effective. For me, I don't want to be a, very negative, but I think my biggest fear is not being there for my kids when they get older. Not, and
Yeah.
that could be like, so that's why I try to really be so getting sick, something like
Yeah.
that, where I can't be there for them. I had a couple little medical things that turned out not to be anything serious, but you start to think about that stuff in your
Sure.
head because you look at your children. Mine are still fairly young, but like I just want to be there when they're older.
Yeah.
And I want to be in good health. And like I said, I want to be active when I'm older. So that way, like, I can still be like, my dad's 70, is still like climbing under cars and doing stuff, getting on
Doing
off the
stuff.
floor, and like still just like, really because he's always kept himself busy. He doesn't take the best care of himself because, I mean, I think he could, but he doesn't. He just kind of keeps himself so busy. He's got such a strong work ethic, which I think
Yeah.
can also, you have to balance all that.
There's
But
a spectrum, sure.
yeah,
But
for
I
me,
would trend that like a good work ethic, maybe a little bit imbalanced is better than the other way around.
yeah. He's always, pick. I'm like, Dad, quit. We were moving, and I was like, he's like over there picking shit up. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
quit. Like,
Yeah.
let me and like these young bucks do it. We're
Uh-huh.
fine. And so, yeah, man. So I think that's why I take, trying to really be healthy,
Yeah.
control the things that can control. I try to really double down on those things, like eating well. And I've always been active as even a young kid. So just keeping myself healthy so I can be there for my kids and my wife, and like I said, not leave support them and be there, be able to take care of them. But like looking at your kids and not being there for them, like that's super hard. It's
Sure.
super
And,
hard.
and
So
not getting to
that's a
know who
fear
they're
of
going to
mine.
become.
Yeah.
Seeing them grow and like, you see them now, it's okay. They're preteens. You're like, well, you'd like to see them when they're teenagers or when they're
Yeah.
maybe early adulthood. You'd like
Yeah.
to, that kind of stuff. It's you
Yeah.
want to see this little human continue to grow.
Yeah. We had a fun memory yesterday. So I got my son to go to Jiu-Jitsu, which he was fighting like hell. He didn't want to go yesterday.
Yeah.
He's just started summer break. He's like, I want
Yeah.
to take it easy. I'm like, let's go, dude. Like I'm trying to get him to understand the purpose of, for me as a young man, I was kind of fearful of confrontation. That's another fear of
Sure.
mine. Fearful to get hurt. I saw my brother kind of get hurt
Mm-hmm.
when he was a teenager, and it kind of scared me a lot because my brother's about 4 years older than me. It scared me a lot as a young man, and even a boy, to be even out around strangers, because he got kind of jumped and got his orbital broken. And as a young person walking down the street, like we'd go for walks, and every time a car would drive by, I'd try to almost like hide behind. I didn't know why I did that, but it was like that trauma and that stress from going through seeing him, go through something tough. So I'm trying to teach my son, I'm getting a little on tangent, but teach my son the importance of like, hey, you want to know how to defend yourself? And he's like, well, I haven't used it. I was like, I hope you never have to use jujitsu to protect yourself, but
That's
I
right.
want you to be able to. But anyway, he was kind of like, we were just driving back, and we just got our pool open. And I was like, dude, let's go, like literally like take our gis off and just run through the house and jump in the pool. And so it was like, probably the water was probably 60 degrees or something, or
Pretty
50
chilly,
something. It
yeah.
was cold. And it was like 9 o'clock at night. We just jumped in the pool, and then my daughter jumped in the pool, and we just had some fun. It was just a great
That's
memory.
cool.
And he's like, "This is the best day ever." So we had a good
Dude,
time. So it was just
that's
like
cute.
fun memories. So I want to make more of those things with them, more memories with them, and be around for a little bit. So yeah.
Here's one for you guys. Says, any tips on remembering techniques after class? A little more jiu-jitsu thing. You know, I go back to this a lot of times. Like we're wanting to do more and more and more, and like we need to journal, we need to do this, we need to do that, right? And that stuff's good. Journaling, if you can record yourself doing the technique or your coach doing the technique with
Yes.
video, because most people have phones, so you can always record it. It's probably going to be a way better, and you could put in like if you're like have an iPhone, you could make a folder, name it by the position, and then you have a little video of those positions you can look through if you want to review them. I think that's more useful than like say journaling, because journaling can be very difficult sometimes unless you're very experienced and you have a good jiu-jitsu shorthand. But I think again, I keep going back to this, right? You have to be really like your brain only has so much processing power, right? Like you think about it that way. And imagine your computer, if the hard drive was filled, you can't put more crap on it, right? So you have to start thinking about, well, what do I want to delete? And so I think about this over and over again. People are trying to always do more and they're not trying to do less. And I think that, again, what you say no to is just as important as what you say yes to. And so when it comes to remembering stuff after class, a really good idea is to like square away a little time where you're not having to do anything else. Like, so if you're driving home, like let your mind sort of like just instead of listening to a podcast instantly that then takes your brain away from what you were just doing, sit back and like think about what you were doing on the way home. Like play through it a little bit. Like when you're messing around on your phone, maybe instead of scrolling, you look on YouTube or you look on an instructional that pertains to the situation or position that you're working on in your gym, just to kind of keep your mind wrapped around that particular position. I'm not saying you got to do this for like hours at a time. I'm like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, just something to jog your memory a little bit, to play through it. And then when you like go to train, you want to try to use this stuff, especially during a live rolling. You want to try to use the stuff that you're doing because, again, jiu-jitsu is not a heady thing. There's the head brains involved in it, sure, right? Like you're thinking about it, but the most important part is you have to get a feeling for this. You don't understand jiu-jitsu until you felt it. Many of us have had that experience where you go through, you see jiu-jitsu, you think you're going to do great, and then you roll and you're exhausted. You need to feel it. And also, too, what ends up happening is when you have experience with a position or a technique, when it's being taught to you, you have more like information to sort of work through it and understand what's going on better. You see more details because you have experience with it. If you've ever had a job where you were trained to do the job and then you get like on the job live, and then all of a sudden you just sort of you forget everything, or all of a sudden you realize you have to learn way more stuff because there's so much that wasn't sort of discussed, or when you come back through the informational material, you remember way more now that you've actually done something with it. It's the same thing. So the big thing is obviously take action with whatever you're being shown. Do whatever mechanism, whatever type of activity you think can help remember it, like journaling, videos, whatever. But again, I really think it comes back to that a lot of people are so bombarded with information that isn't information that they are intentionally consuming. It's being fed to them by an algorithm. It's really good to like just turn all that shit off. Like, and again, this is why I'm such a proponent for deleting social media off your phone. If you want to install it periodically at different times during the day to actually check it, whatever, that's fine. But I would just delete it. So this way you can let your mind wander and noodle around the things that are more important to you, right? Like, do you really care about the big news break that like happens every week about something that like Trump did or something that a Democrat did or whatever, that's just designed to make you angry? Do you really care? Do you really care about like some woman in France who had her child abducted or something? It's in France. This has nothing to do with us, right? Like, so, but again, or do you care about like, man, I'm really trying to improve this activity that I drive to the gym for every week. I'm really interested in, some other subject. Well, then make room for all that stuff because that's what you're trying to do. And again, I think that's just as important as, trying to journal and everything else. Try to clear off your plate a little bit more.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, I think I agree with a lot of that stuff. So one thing, we did like a seminar, like JT Torres this seminar. One of the things that I did, because I didn't ask to record, after the seminar was over, I went to the other side of the gym and I recorded myself going through it.
That's a good strategy.
Talking through it and giving some ideas, some pointers where I like, okay, focus on this thing or pay attention to this part of it, maybe a tricky part. That's one. And then like a couple other ideas, funneling your, like, kind of almost put blinders on, funnel your technique. So don't see something, if you're working on a guard pass, don't just jump to a wrist lock or something that's all the way out in left field. It doesn't play towards that. Have something that at least correlates to that technique. Like you mentioned, go over that, try to hit that technique in training, try to do that for a time. For me, it's like, all right, let me see if I can get into the position of the technique, maybe work on entries and try to do that as my goal. That's all I'm only trying to do is that, when I'm training, and try to do that for a while and see if it's something that sticks. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. Like really, like it's really hard to hit the technique when it's just been shown. And like the next day or the next week, people kind of start to forget about it. So if it's something that resonates with you, try to hit it. For me as well, one more thing is sometimes you'll show something different or unique or a different type of pass. There was a pass that you had shown that I really liked, and I started showing it in class, start teaching it. So if you can teach it, you're going to start to break it down and really get the ins and outs and see what the mistakes people are making. You'll be able to correct them. So I think teaching it's a great way to remember a technique. If you are, an upper belt that does have that opportunity, which some of us do not, some of us are not teaching. So those are some ideas for me, but I think filming, recording it, yourself doing it, and then going over it and drilling it essentially is a great way.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Those are all good ideas, and teaching is definitely super useful. Here's a fun one: guilty pleasure food. So, what's the food you go to for guilty pleasure? So, mine's probably not that crazy. Like, so it's just not that big of a deal. I'm not like, since my diet's pretty consistent, I don't really like going off the rails, right? And there's certain foods I don't really like. I used to love eating pizza, for instance. I don't really like too much pizza that much anymore. Like, I'll eat a couple slices, but it's so fatty. Because like, if you look at the calories in a pizza, it's so much fat. Like, everybody says, carbs. It does not have as many carbs as it does fat as far as calories go. But I would say that my favorite little go-tos, like when it comes to my free meals where I get to eat whatever I want, I like a little ice cream. Ice cream's always a win for me. I really like ice cream.
What's your favorite flavor? Or do you have a favorite type?
Bar none favorite flavor. Like, I'll play around with some other stuff, is cookies and cream. If it's a good one, I just like cookies and cream. It's basically Oreos and vanilla ice cream. It's like so hard to go wrong with, right? It's delicious.
Yeah.
And so that, and then as far as food goes, like most often my wife and I will get sushi. We really like sushi. And again, I know sushi's not like super terrible, but again, all that, like, they're spraying all that mayo and all this other stuff. It's like it's not the most healthy thing as far as weight's concerned, right? It's extra calories, but I like sushi. And then I usually get ramen with it. Like, I'll get a big thing of ramen with my sushi. And so it's super good. Luca really likes ramen too. So he'll be sitting there eating the noodles and stuff. We got him to eat a California roll last time. So it's a crunch mush roll. So he ate that. And then my wife and I, we really like this this Cuban place. They moved locations to the downtown area, so I don't go there as much because, like, downtown's such a pain in the butt to park. You have to park like a block down because there's not a dedicated. They have like such a small parking lot, which again maybe it's not a big deal, but I liked the old location where you parked, you went in, ate your food, and you're like right there. Opposed to, like, I've got to like fight and drive around to find a parking lot like 2 blocks away just to go whatever. So not a big deal, but there's a place in town that I like called Guacamole. Me and my wife like it, and they've got some really good food. And they make there's a salmon pibble that I really like, which again, not like, it's not terrible, but it's a lot of extra calories. And they come with like fried plantains and stuff. And they've got a really good bread pudding dessert as a capirotada. And basically it's like a Mexican restaurant that's owned by Cubans. And so it's like, it's technically, you've got some Mexican dishes, but with like a flair. Then you got like fried plantains and stuff that's very like traditionally like kind of along with the lines with Cubans. So it's really good, man. And I really like it. So those are a couple of our guilty pleasure foods, right? How about you, bud?
Yeah, I'm not far off you, man. Like, as far as the ice cream, I like some Ben and Jerry's, man.
Ben and Jerry's. What's your favorite Ben and Jerry's flavor?
It's hard. I like the Tonight Dough.
Tonight Dough, okay.
The Tonight Dough is pretty good. It's got like everything in it. It's got like caramel, it's got vanilla, it's got like chocolate. Honestly, Costco. I actually like the Costco soft serve, like the strawberry.
It's strawberry. I like a good soft serve anyway. I mean, a good soft serve, pretty darn good.
Dude, it was so good. So it's got the strawberries in it. That one, oh man. And then like the sushi, I'll go all out, but I'll just probably overeat. That's the problem. We do the same thing. Like, my daughter likes ramen, so she'll get ramen. So I'll get some of her ramen, and then I'll get, sushi for me. And I like the stuff. Sometimes I'll get the deep fry. I don't get a lot of deep fried just because of the fatty stuff. I don't like fried foods too much. It messes my gut up, but I'll get a little fried roll and get a couple other things. And I just probably eat like 4 rolls, which, I'm so stuffed.
Yeah.
But I just can't. I'm like, you know what? We're good. And it's not terrible. Like, it's just not. I've got rice in there. I've got some fish, or quote unquote fish. We'll see if it's imitation or whatever. But that's usually what I'll do is I like them. And there was a spot we went to, Chewy, we actually wanted ramen one night. My wife wanted ramen, and we go to this place, and they had all you can eat sushi. And I was like,
here in town?
Yeah, it's called the Chubby Ninja.
Chubby Ninja. Was it good?
So it was not bad. I expected it to be like really terrible. But it was like, I don't know, 30 something bucks. I was like, that's 2 rolls, 2.5
Yeah,
rolls. I'll
right.
knock out at least 4.
Yeah.
So I went in there. They got ramen, and I got all you can eat sushi, and I knocked out about 5 rolls.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
was not bad. Like I was like, dude, if I'm super hungry and I've got like a cheat meal or whatever, I'm gonna
Yeah.
throw down and go there. It's not that bad. It was pretty decent. It's not as good as like a really nice sushi restaurant, but
Sure.
like it scratches the itch. I was like,
Yeah. I
it's
got you.
not bad. It's
Well,
not
it's
bad.
like there's some of those places out in Vegas where it's like all of them are like all you can eat sushi,
Yeah,
and again, they're not like it's not the best sushi I've ever had, but
yeah.
they're tasty. You know,
It
it's like
was
it's
better.
good.
It was better than Gorilla Sushi in Vegas. I think it
Yeah.
was better for
Good.
sure.
Good.
So
Yeah.
worth it. Like I was like, I'd go back for sure.
Yeah. For
Go
30
back for
bucks per
sure. Yeah.
person, ain't bad.
Yeah. Ain't bad at all.
All right. Let's look here. Ideas for a good breakfast before training. I imagine we'll probably be similar here. Um, I have foods that I like, but really it comes down to like it's kind of this. You want to know the kind of the framework that's going to be supportive. So typically it's going to be carbs and protein.
Yep.
And light on the fats. The fats, basically, your body digests. Fats will slow down your digestive system anyway, and fats are the slowest macronutrient that our bodies digest, right? So, if you eat a big glob of fat in your meal, you're going to slow down your digestion, and you'll be more like satiated. So, if you want to feel fuller longer, it's a good idea to add some fat. But when it comes to just like throwing some fuel down the hatch so that it digests fast, so you can get ready to go train, you want to keep the fats relatively low. And so typically like, my morning meal before training is typically I'll make some egg white pancakes and then I have fruit and honey on it, right? Which basically it's protein and carbs and sugar ready to go. I can eat that. I can go train in an hour and ready to get after it. That's what I typically eat. And those are basically just oats and egg whites that I let soak, and I make pancakes out of them. And then I'll put some fruit like blueberries and bananas and honey on top of it. And then that's as a bulk. So I take away the honey and some of the fruit when I'm not bulking, right? If I'm traveling and just in a pinch, I'll do like a protein shake. Like I can go to a gas station and get this. I'll go to a gas station and get a protein shake and a Pop-Tart. And you have to be very intentional about the way you eat the Pop-Tarts, because Pop-Tarts always come in the 2-pack.
Yeah.
So what you got to do is you got to open the pack, take your Pop-Tart out, especially if you're traveling, put the remaining Pop-Tart into the trunk of your car, close the trunk, get in the car, start driving to the gym. Because if that Pop-Tart is sitting in your seat with you, you're going to eat that second Pop-Tart. Because one Pop-Tart, again, it's calorically dense. It has a lot of carbs, but it is not filling at all, right?
Nope.
So you can eat that. So that's kind of what you want, right? You want fuel, but you don't want to feel heavy. And so I can eat that really close to training and do pretty well. And then, but again, it's all about finding carbohydrates you can digest. Like if I have to, like later in the evening, rice and meat. I can eat rice and chicken or rice and tuna, I don't eat beef, but rice and chicken, rice and tuna, rice and fish. And I can go train, no problem. It just like if all of a sudden I start throwing avocado oils, whatever,
Sure.
that's when things change. And so, you can even do a fruit smoothie, protein shake and some fruit in there, blend it up, fruit smoothie, go to the gym. So, I really think when it comes down to the food, you just want to load up on those carbohydrates, because and again, it's all how many carbohydrates you should have, and the type of carbohydrates you should have maybe depends a little bit on your body weight and your level of body fat, that sort of thing. If you have a high body fat, you probably want to keep the honey out of the way. Probably don't want the honey. If you're a little bit more leaner, you can probably get away with the honey. But because you're going to be just for different reasons, right? But again, with that, it still goes back to your body can utilize carbs more efficiently than it can any other macronutrient for energy. And then the protein supports this as well. And then again, fats are going to take the longest. And so typically I keep my fats like after training and at the evenings when I want to feel fuller longer.
Yep.
And when it's not so important that I need to be able to move around. So
what's your favorite flavor of Pop-Tarts?
Probably blueberry.
I like mixed berry.
Mixed berry's pretty good.
Mixed berry. Blueberry's not bad. All right.
I mean, mixed berries, blueberry and strawberry probably. Yeah. So you know what I mean?
The same. Just got different food coloring in it.
Yeah,
right?
It's probably that, right? We're just tricking these assholes.
All right. So this is what I got. I actually like, because I like, I do fried rice. I make myself a fried rice.
Okay.
So I do rice, and I'll do soy sauce, and then I'll do eggs, and I'll mix that together, and I'll have make like an egg fried rice, which is like literally it's got all my macros and stuff. And then I do egg whites, but I actually drink my egg whites. Okay. So I do greens, like greens powder.
Uh-huh.
So I'll do like some of my vitamins. So I'll do
How many whites do you drink right now?
250.
Oh God,
250
that's
grams.
disgusting. That's disgusting.
No, it's dude, I do that, a little bit of water, do some greens powder.
Yeah.
Dude, fun thing. Like I trick my kids. I make my kids protein shakes sometimes if they don't want to eat really well in the mornings.
Yeah.
And I'll do some chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And I'll do some oat milk a little bit, and then I'll do some egg whites.
Yeah.
And then I'll do protein powder, and then
I'll do the same with Luca.
I'll sprinkle a couple marshmallows on top afterwards, and dude, they're happy. Like, oh, it's really freaking good too, because chocolate milk has a good amount of sugar in it. Like not a ton, but enough to where it's like nice and they love it. Like, so I put some egg whites in their stuff, just give them extra protein. So I don't mind drinking the egg whites
with spinach and stuff. I mean, I don't really mind it. And like drinking egg whites that are like egg whites out of the box is not too bad. Drinking like egg whites from the egg,
no,
because they're so
pasteurized. I'm getting the cartons.
No, I know the carton, but I'm saying like, you know, like I can drink those. That's not too bad. But like the real like fresh egg whites, they're so like
snotty. They're like so snotty and goopy. Nah, dude, this. But I'll do that. That's how I get my egg whites in and stuff. Because otherwise, it's like a lot of volume to eat once you cook up those egg whites.
Let's see here. Look at these, and here's one. Do you ease off of training during the holidays? For me, not really. I tend to actually go like I actually train a little bit more sometimes in the holidays, because let's say if it's a holiday, that means I may not be teaching a normal class. So it's like open mats. And then I've got a little extra time, so I typically lift. So I don't really change my training schedule. My training schedule is pretty much constant. Even my work schedule is constant. I don't ever really change that. I pretty much work at least a little bit every day. Not a ton. I might get up before everybody else gets up, so I can do some writing or do some work on the website or whatever it is I got to do. And I do that, like, I might get up early in the morning to do that before the family gets up, and then we spend our time together. Or if I'm like, let's say if it's a holiday or we're traveling, I might get up at 6 a.m, go get my lift in, and then come home. So this way, hey, I'm ready to go and do what we got to do. So I don't really tend to ease off of training. I talked about this on another podcast where I kind of I find a rhythm and a pace that I sort of just maintain year round. And at periodic times, I'll ramp up or if I need to because of an injury or something, which doesn't happen very often, I can back off. But otherwise, I kind of just maintain my pace and do that year round because that's what I like doing. And, again, if it's a holiday, that means I might have some time off and a little extra time to myself. So I like doing this. So why would I not do this on a holiday? This isn't work,
Right.
So, I mean, it is work, but it's a work I find meaningful and enjoyable to a degree. So, there's that.
For me, as long as the holiday, like specifically the gym's not closed on that day, or I can work around that day, I'm keeping my schedule pretty much the same. I'm only training like 2-3 times a week, so as long as the holiday doesn't interfere with the day that I'm training, I'm doing the same stuff. Again, the intensity may fluctuate, but other than that, and then the beautiful thing when we moved, I had a gym in my garage, and I was able to transition that gym and get a little more equipment. So my basement's I've got a treadmill, I've got a Airdyne. It's like all those Rogue Echo bikes, which I hate, but that thing's amazing for cardio. If you want to get some really good cardio, some HIIT training in, that thing is amazing. I work out, like I'll get up a little early because I don't have to go anywhere. So if like I can't make it to the gym, I'm trying to get a lift in at home, which is amazing to have. And I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to do that. So I have kind of a gym in my basement that I get to work out at. But yeah, training, I'm just there regardless, as long as it doesn't fall on my as long as like the holiday doesn't fall on the actual day that I train.
Yep. All right, last one.
Last one.
How do you feel about a gym saying you can't ask a black belt to roll if you're a lower rank? I mean, so I think we both agree on this one. I don't like it. I think it's bull crap. I was at a gym one time. This is like a long time ago, and I was at this gym, and this young white belt, he's staring at me, and I stare back at him, and then kind of just go back to looking at something because he doesn't say anything or motion, and then he looks back at me, and I look back at him, and eventually I just kind of give him a "What's up, dude?" And then he like moseys up over, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" Da, 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 da. So we're talking. And then like he's just kind of lingering there, and I'm just sort of like hanging out. And I look at him. I said, "Man, you want to get a roll in? Because it's an open mat." He's like, "Oh man, I'd love to." And so eventually I said, bro, I was like, why didn't you just ask me? He said, well, at the gym, we're not supposed to like, not just not ask black belts. They're not even supposed to approach black belts. I was like, weird. This is
Okay.
very weird, right? Like
Is it
that's weird to me.
tradition? Is that just tradition? Is that just like a BJJ tradition, a respect thing? Is that because what is it? Why?
I think it's a measure of control. So a lot of times, like, there a level of tradition, sure, maybe or whatever, but like, I think a lot of times, like, I think about like in a wrestling room. When you're in a wrestling room, for instance, this has just been my experience. You know who's good. You have lots of respect for people, and you have respect based on their actions and the way they present themselves, the way that they do things. Right? That's where the respect is earned, not because they have some piece of dyed cloth around their waist. Sometimes in gyms where they have that kind of that authority thing going on. To me, I don't know if it's like at some point to me it was probably just it's probably become tradition for some people, but I think at some point it was used to control people. Like
Yeah.
like, let me get you to do one thing and then another thing and another thing and another thing until basically I have you doing, whatever I want you to do, because we started off with you always addressing me as master. And then I had you never approach me unless I look your direction or whatever. I don't know. It's just weird to me. Like I said, I originally started in a wrestling room. And so in wrestling, it's very laid back. And
Yeah.
when we're on the mats together, it's like, we know who's good. We know who's there. We all have a mutual respect for one another. But there's not like a weird, like, I have to approach my coach as if he's this like mystical guru.
Mhm.
And I kind of like having that. And to me, that's a little bit more close knit. And, I can have plenty of respect. I can gain people's respect by simply the way that I present myself. So I don't like it. I don't think it's useful. I think it's stupid. So that's that.
I didn't earn my black belt in an environment like that. So it's never been a part of our gym and how the things are done. It's more of like everybody's kind of, yes, you have leaders kind of in the gym, like kind of, the upper belts that are leaders, but it's not like anybody's better than anybody else. And I feel like it is, I guess it's maybe a tradition thing, but like if I don't want to roll with you, I'm just gonna say I don't want to roll with you. And that's not
Yeah,
going to be
because there's times
because
where like maybe
you're
you're
a
getting ready
lower
for a
rank.
competition or something like that, and you
Exactly.
need to train with higher level people. That makes complete sense, right? No big
As
deal.
long as it's like, hey, it's a respectful thing. You can decline a roll. Like, and there was like, oh, he doesn't want. It's not about that. Um, I don't know. Like, I guess you're right. It's like a control thing. I think it's like I thought maybe it's like a tradition, like a hierarchy. You have a hierarchy, and it's a way of respect. But you're right. You're not going to respect somebody because they're a black belt. You respect them
Right.
because of like, hey, they have a good skill set. They're kind. They're like they take time out to teach you some things.
Right.
They roll with you in a way that's not like just to beat the shit out of you. They roll with you in a way that's kind of like encouraging, give you some tips and things like that. They try to build you up. And I
Mhm.
would hope that when I roll with people, sometimes, I'm doing that. I think that I'm doing that in a way, hopefully, that is they get something out of it and I get something out if it's a lower belt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way I try to do it. All right.
All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast today. Maybe got a little something to chew on, or at least are entertained by Eugene and me meeting our wives, and maybe got you to laugh a little bit there. But anyway,
It's always like just it's always an awkward thing kind of thinking back on it. It's always like oh man.
well, that's because we were awkward.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like like a guy in his 20s, like we're
Like
awkward. We're
nobody's ever smooth. Like you walk in and just
no.
like swoop them off their feet with some kind of,
Well, some people are, but they're few and far
I
between.
don't know.
I knew a buddy of mine. He got a dude. That dude was like I remember he would say the craziest stuff to women, and like they would just laugh. It's stuff like where if I said it, they would slap me, and somehow he would get away with it because he was smooth. So
Yeah. There you go.
some guys have that. I'm not one of them, and I think it's fewer and far between.
That's all right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode, and thank you for your questions. Thanks to our sponsors for bringing the podcast to you. Charlotte's Web CBD. Again, I tell you guys, if you want to check it out, try the supplements out for yourself, see what it does for you. They got a lot of different CBD products, different cannabinoid products like CBN products to help you sleep. They have functional mushroom products like lion's mane and reishi and all these things to help support other functions. If you want to check out the products, go to their website at charlottesweb.com. Use the promo code Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. And then our other sponsor, Epic Roll. Good sponsor, been with us for a long time. They make a lot of good gear. I use their products because they make great gear. I use the no-gi gear pretty much every week, and I get my gis made for my new students coming in from Epic Roll because I like the quality. I like what he puts out. If you guys want to check them out, go to epicrollbjj.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. If you guys want to support the podcast directly, do so by going to our Patreon membership, patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And for joining up for a very inexpensive membership, commitment issues. But for supporting a really inexpensive membership, you'll get a bunch of perks. If you guys want to check out the perks and get details about it, go to the website, patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Last but not least, if you would like to get my daily, almost daily email, Monday through Friday mostly, and get an ebook and video that goes into some strategies on developing more focus for your training in ways that you can do from the beginning to black belt, from white belt to black belt, and any level in between, go to my website, jujitsu.net/join. When you join up, you'll get access to the free ebook and video, and then you can then use those strategies immediately to put into your training. I've got a lot of good feedback from it because, again, it's a very simple, it's like basically a big checklist, very short, but it's enough that if you look through it, you can look through it in a very short period of time and immediately put some of that stuff into the mix in your training the very same day. It's very simple. So anyway, just some ideas and showing today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you next week.